Flash forward. It's a show about the Flash. Flash forward. Reading every single issue. We're gonna have a blast with the man who runs fast. Flash forward. Flash forward. Alright, hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Flash Forward. This episode we're going to be talking about the crossover event between The Flash and Impulse, Dead Heat, which is a 6-part crossover event that flips between the two books, except for the first 2 parts. Both of those are in Flash, and then after that it flips in between. The reason for that is because of publishing. The story can feel a little bit like out of order at first, or like you can tell they were publishing Impulse, and Mark Waid was intending for issue 9 of Impulse to kind of be a part 2, and it is technically, but it's also not, because while it does have elements in it that do tie into Dead Heat, the overall story doesn't at all. Some background before we get into it. I've been reading Impulse. I read Impulse all the way up to issue 9, which is where Dead Heat begins to really affect that title. In issue 8, Max Mercury goes missing. Bart goes home one day and Max Mercury is gone. Yeah, that's really all the backstory that we need going into this. And then obviously there's all the stuff that's been happening in the Flash, but you know about that. If you're listening to this episode and you're wondering what happened before this, go back and listen to the other previous episodes of Flash Forward, because I've been covering the whole series. So before we get into the issue, if you're listening to this on YouTube, then feel free to subscribe and like the video. Because it'll help, it helps push the content and stuff. I'm trying to upload these all to YouTube, and I want to get my content out there. So yeah, it would mean a lot to me. So yeah, let's get straight into it. Dead Heat, The Flash, issue 108, written by Mark Waid, with art by Oscar Jimenez and Jose Mazen Jr. So the issue begins on a spooky mountain with a spooky castle, because when you're a cult, you gotta be in a spooky castle, right? So we see this cult that wears like blue cloaks with lightning bolts on them. And one of the cult members runs up to this podium and lightning strikes down on them, and just they erupt in fire and become a burnt corpse. And behind them, this naked dude is there with long hair. And it's assumed that he was born out of this person, or they were a sacrifice in order to summon him. This guy will be known as... His name is Savitar. We find that out later. And everyone starts maniacally laughing after Savitar is born or, summoned. And so after that we find, we get to see some of the speedsters that we've come to know over the years. Jay Garrick is busy doing his thing. He's actually trying to sort around the house, and he drops a vase and he goes to catch it because he's got super speed. Jessie Quick is on a date with a guy, and a bunch of criminals attack them, and so she decides that she needs to get out of the car and go after them. And remember Red Trinity, the speedster delivery service that used to be enemy, they Russian experiments, and now they're a delivery service with super speed. One of their members, Cassiopeia, or Cassio for short, is delivering a parcel up a building, and so he starts running up the building in order to deliver the parcel. And then all of a sudden, all 3 of them at the same time lose their speed. So Jay tries to catch the vase and he fails, and he loses his speed. Jessie tries to run after the criminals, and she can't run fast. And Cassiopeia just stops running up the building because he's lost his speed, and he falls from the building, and his fate is left in the air. And his brother is like, Cassio! As he's falling. So yeah, it seems like speedsters are losing their speed, which isn't good, especially because some of them are at risk of dying. Meanwhile, Wally and Linda have no idea what's going on. They're just on a date. They're watching people. They're doing people watching. They see this guy on the other table, and they're like, hey, that guy's wig looks terrible. Like, man, he should just go natural and stuff. Like, they're just making fun of him. And suddenly their conversation kind of shifts to like, oh, I wonder if they're married. And then they're like, oh, I wonder, like, we haven't even talked about us getting married. And Wally tries to, like, push the conversation away, and Linda's like, no, we should actually talk about it. We should talk about the idea of us getting married. And Wally's like, shit, I've fallen into this conversation. I don't want to be in this conversation about marriage. And then all of a sudden, the cult members that we saw from before, that Wally just refers to as ninjas, suddenly appear. And Wally's like, yes, ninjas, great. Don't need to have that conversation anymore. I get to fight these guys. And then he realizes that Linda and everyone else there can't see them. And so it doesn't take Wally very long to realize that these guys are running at super speed. And that's why, and because he's at super fast right now, out of straight up out of instinct, he's the only one who can see them. So he starts fighting these ninjas. They have like a big blowout, and nobody has any idea what's going on because they're all running at super speed, so nobody can see them. These guys actually have blades as well, that they fight with. Wally grabs an umbrella and he uses that to beat the crap out of them because these guys try to run away because it's obviously a hit and run. And so Wally knocks one of them out. The other one manages to get away. And after knocking him out, now everyone can see that there were guys in cloaks there. Because they're no longer running super fast. And that's when Jay and Jesse show up. And Jessie is really mad at Wally because she believes that Wally is the reason why they've lost their speed. Because they reveal to Wally that they've lost their speed. And it's probably because he's been using the Speed Force too much, and now he's sucking out their speed, and it's running out. He's hogging it all. And Wally's like, well, if that's the case, like, I don't mean to. Like, let's find a way to balance it back out again. You know, so that you can get your speed back. And Jay's just like, the situation is a lot more dire than that, Wally. And he shows a newspaper clipping to Wally, and it's Cassiopeia has died. When he fell off the building earlier, he fell to his death. And Wally's just like, no. Like, what the hell? Meanwhile, Johnny Quick, the father of Jesse Quick, goes to a local diner in order to meet somebody there. And they say to Johnny, they're like, look, Johnny, I know that, like, first of all, she's like, why did you come in your costume? And Johnny's like, because I had a feeling you wouldn't know that it was, like, who I actually am, but I guess you do, so I guess I wore my costume for no reason. Anyway, what do you want? And this mysterious person is like, look, I know you don't believe in the Speed Force, you're all about mathematics and stuff, but I really need you to believe in it now, because it is crucial to what is currently going on. And it's revealed that this person talking to Johnny Quick is Iris. And she's like, look, I'm supposed to be back in the future. I know too much about the future. But I also know that there is a situation coming up that will involve the death of somebody that I love. Or, like, of one of us, you know. And I love everyone in our, like, Flash family. And I can't let anyone die. So I feel like my duty is to use my knowledge of the future to save that person, because I just can't let them die. And it will require you need to believe in the Speed Force, Johnny. And Johnny's like, look, Iris, I will do whatever I can to protect everyone, but I refuse to believe in this thing that I don't think exists. You know? My powers come from within me. They always have, they always will. And as he leaves, he tries to use his speed force by saying his equation, like, not the speed force. He tries to use his speed powers through his equation, and he just trips over and realizes that he's run out of power. Just like, my powers have never failed. They've never failed. He's just kind of like on his knees, shocked at what's happened. So even Johnny has lost his powers, and that's kind of the proof to him that, like, the Speed Force exists and he is a part of it. After learning of Cassio's death, Wally is like, that's it, I need to find out who's behind this. So he grabs this cult member and dangles him from a building and is like, tell me who is behind this. He's like, Savitar. You're still playing games, are you? Savitar who? Who is Savitar? He's like, Savitar, the Lord of Speed. You know, he's stealing, like, he is the one who is stripping the unworthy people of their speed. And then he creates us, his assassins, and then we are sent out to kill the students of speed. Because basically he wants to be the only speedster. And as Wally's about to question him even more, this cult member just explodes in lightning and ages decades rapidly until he's nothing but bones and dust. And they just fall to the ground because Wally lets go because he's holding on to nothing but a cloak, so it just kind of like slips through his fingers and it just crushes on the ground. And Jay and Jesse run up to him, and Wally's like, he's referring to this Savitar killing students of speed. Maybe he's referring to Bart. So we need to go and find Bart, and we need to save him. Especially because he's with Max Mercury, and Max Mercury might have more of an idea who Savitar is, because Max Mercury knows more about the Speed Force and this kind of stuff than any of us. And so that's when it's revealed that the reason why Max Mercury has gone missing, like I mentioned earlier, is because he's been kidnapped by Savitar. And the reason he's been kidnapped by Savitar is Savitar blames him for everything. He's like, you're the one that brought everyone into this. You're the one that connected them all to the Speed Force. And because of that, I blame you. But I don't want your blood on my hands, so I'm just going to get my cult member to kill you. And he's like, hey, you, kill him. And so this guy goes to kill Max Mercury. And in Impulse issue 9, it is revealed that Max Mercury actually, like, fights back against this dude, even though he's all trained up. And he manages to beat up the two Savitar cronies and escape from his chains, and then break through, like, and then, like, leave the castle. Like, he prepares to escape from the castle, and that's the last time we see Max Mercury. Meanwhile, Wally, Jesse, Jay, and Linda all head off to find Bart, and we're left on a little bit of a thing of, like, read Impulse issue 9 to find out what happens to Bart. And this final panel includes Bart and a character known as XS, who is the future niece of Barry Allen, I'm pretty sure, like the great niece of Barry Allen, or niece of Barry Allen, I'm pretty sure. She's a member of the Legion of Superheroes. It shows them being attacked by Savitar's men, which doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in issue 9. Maybe it happens in issue 10 of Impulse, but it doesn't happen in issue 9. No, all they do is they team up against this villain that has nothing to do with Dead Heat. Everything important that happened in Impulse issue 9, I've already mentioned about Max Mercury escaping. So yeah, that's the end of issue 108. And the next issue that we're going to be talking about is issue 109, part 2 of Dead Heat. So let's get straight into it. So Wally, Linda, Jesse, and Jay all head to Bart's house in order to save him, and XS is there too. Because I guess after the end of issue 9, they went back to Bart's house and then they got attacked by the guys. We don't get to see it, but, like, it's happened. They're being attacked by Savitar's men. So Wally shows up and starts fighting them, and he tells, like, Linda and Jay and Jesse to get in because there are neighbors around, and Bart has a secret identity. Like, he's supposed to have a secret identity, so they got to get in the house, lay low, and let Wally beat up these guys alongside Bart and XS. So Wally, Bart, and XS fight the Savitar, like, cult guys. Wally knocks one of them out with the fridge. And after they've been knocked out, just like the last Savitar cult member, these ones disintegrate into nothing but bones. And Wally explains that they're there in order to find out if Max Mercury has any information on Savitar. And also, Wally doesn't know who XS is. He's never met her before. Her real name is Jenny Ognatz. I was wrong about her being a niece. She's the sister of Bart and the granddaughter of Iris and Barry, and the daughter of the Tornado Twins, whose names, it's Dawn and Dawn, right? Yeah, they're the Tornado Twins. We know pretty much nothing about them except that they became heroes in the future and then got, like, put in prison and had their powers, like, experimented on and stuff, and that's how Bart was born, then he was put under, like, government. Like, yeah, we know all that stuff. So Bart is like, I think Max has some journals around here. There might be something in there about Savitar. I've been looking for a reason to take all his journals and look through them. So Wally starts, through super speed, starts looking through all of Max's journals. He's like, nope. And then he gets into a conversation with XS. Because he's like, oh, wait, I didn't even ask who you are. Who are you? And Jenny introduces herself, and they have a conversation about the Tornado Twins, and Wally has never heard of them before. He's like, wow, I always thought of myself as Barry's son, but I guess I actually have competition. I don't like thinking about it that way, but that's kind of just how I feel about learning about Barry's children. And then eventually Linda finds the journal that they're looking for, and it's Max recounting Savitar's history and everything he knows about him. So we go well back to the Cold War, like way back to the Cold War. It's funny, Savitar's old plane is, we never learn his real name. By the way, I just noticed this, but you never know his real name. All you know is that he was a pilot in the Cold War. His plane had 666 on it, which is really funny because he's all about, like, talking about God and stuff, but maybe it's like, oh, but really does he think he's is he worshipping what he thinks is God, but it's actually like a false God and he's been tainted by the devil. So he's a pilot in the Cold War, testing planes, and he pushes one of the planes far enough and goes fast enough that he sees the Speed Force, and then he gets, like, his plane gets zapped by lightning, and then he crashes into the middle of nowhere, and he has speed powers, so he goes through the same, like, similar situations with the other characters, zapped by lightning. And then when he wakes up, he's surrounded by soldiers who think that he's some kind of monster because, you would think that if you saw a guy get zapped by lightning and he was still alive. And through instinct, he just super speeds and kills all of them. He slaughters all these soldiers, and then he realizes that this lightning has not only saved his life once, but twice. And so he becomes a religious zealot. He goes to a local library and he starts reading every book in order to get caught up on this religion, because he wants to figure out, like, this religion that he's created, because he wants to figure out how to break into the Speed Force and learn all of its secrets. And his years of failure in doing that pushed him over the edge and made him insane. And so now he's insane. he's great. Like, yeah, he's off his rocker now. And so apparently during this time, Jay had already retired as the Flash. So they were kind of like, were there any other Flashes around when Savitar was going through this? Any other speedsters? And they come to the conclusion that, like in the journal, it reveals that Johnny Quick was still around. And so it's revealed that Savitar went to find Johnny Quick to learn more about the Speed Force from him. But when he went to see him, Johnny Quick was just like, what are you talking about, this stupid Speed Force thing? Like, I get my powers from mathematics, you idiot. Savitar's like, hey, you heathen, how dare you say such blasphemic things? You don't deserve to live. And he tries to kill Johnny Quick. And then Max Mercury shows up. And it's cool because it's all like, this is supposed to take place in like the 40s, I guess, or the 60s. Yeah, I think it takes place in the 60s. Or like, it's the late 40s because it's before Barry Allen has become the Flash, but after Jay Garrick has retired. So it's like in between that. So around like, probably around like 1948 or something. So Max Mercury, who is currently under the alias of Quicksilver, shows up and stops Savitar from killing Johnny. And Savitar runs away. And Max is like, we gotta go after him because he's trying to find the secrets of the Speed Force. And Johnny's just like, you're still going on about this whole Speed Force thing? Alright, I'll follow you, but I'm still choosing not to believe in this whole thing. And so they find Savitar's headquarters where he started to build his acolytes, like his cult. But his cult members don't have speed yet. And Max says in his journal, he's like, I fear the day that Savitar figures out how to share his speed. So Johnny Quick and Max Mercury fight all of Savitar's forces. And then Savitar escapes into like the Speed Force, or like on the edge of the Speed Force, and Max Mercury chases after him. So they both run fast enough that they are on the edge of the Speed Force, and Savitar attempts to break into the Speed Force, but Max Mercury knows that if Savitar's course is offset, it'll send him into the time stream. So Max Mercury knocks Savitar off of the edge of the Speed Force, sending him colliding into the time stream and causing Savitar to get lost in time. Meanwhile, in doing so, Max Mercury exits the time stream and ends up in the 80s. Or the 70s. 70s or 80s. I think it's the 80s. So he's time jumped again. And then he decides to live there from now on, waiting for Savitar to come back, because he knows Savitar is going to come back. So what Max plans on doing is sharing the Speed Force around and creating allies. And so that would eventually lead to Barry Allen and Wally, Jay coming back, all of that stuff. So he's going to wait until he has all these allies with speed, and then he'll bring them all together when Savitar comes back and fight Savitar. So Wally's like, man, Max has been planning this entire time. And Bart is like, why? If he already knew about this, why didn't he tell us, like, now? And Wally's like, because I guess it just wasn't the right time. And that's when Max shows up, beaten and bloody. They're like, oh my god, Max. And Max is like, Savitar, I escaped from his castle. And Wally's like, can you tell me where the castle is? And he opens up, like, Max's chest and sees that, like, there are coordinates to Savitar's castle on his chest. And Wally's like, alright, I'm gonna go and find Savitar. And Max is like, yeah, you gotta go and find Savitar, and you've gotta kill him. Savitar can't steal your speed. You're the only one who he can't steal the speed from, because you're too closely tied to the Speed Force. So he wants to kill you, because if he kills you, then he can take your speed. But he can't do it if you're still alive. Wally decides that he needs to go by himself, and Linda is like, is there anything I can do to help you? And Wally's like, yeah, can you please be my beacon for when I come home? And so they kiss each other. They're all like, mwah. And So XS decides that she wants to go with Wally because she doesn't have super speed, but she has a flight ring. It's funny because in Impulse, Bart didn't know how XS could fly. She was like, "Oh, I'll tell you eventually. It's a secret for now." And so when she reveals that it's a ring, Bart is like, "I thought it was you that could fly. I didn't think that you needed a ring or something." And Wally asks for XS to give him the ring because he has somebody else in mind that he thinks should use the ring. And he throws it to Jesse. He's like, "Jesse, you have, like, you fly. Like, you've flown a lot in battle and stuff. It's part of your abilities. I want you to come with me because you'll know how to use this flight ring to its greatest, like, to its, like, the most. You'd be able to use it like a professional because you're used to flying all the time, while XS is still young, so you're probably going to be better at flying than she is." And before they go, Jessie is like, "Look, I'm going to come with you." And she's shocked because Wally is trusting her. But before they go, she goes and she grabs the blade that one of the assassins was using and decides to take it with her. And then Wally grabs Max Mercury's body, and he and Jesse head off in order to drop Max at a hospital and then find Savitar's castle and hopefully find Savitar and defeat him. And that's where it ends. That's where the issue ends. So the next issue that we're going to be talking about is Impulse issue 10. Alright, Impulse issue 10, written by Mark Waid, with art by Humberto Ramos and Wayne Faucher. This does, connect. This is important to Dead Heat. It really is. But this isn't where the action is. The action is currently going on in the next issue of Flash that we'll be reading after this. This is just kind of they're using the Impulse title to kind of be like, here's what all the characters are doing that aren't with the Flash and Jesse. And they're not really allowed to do much because, Wally is the one who has to progress the overall plot. So this one focuses more on just what are the reactions of the characters to this situation? What is Bart currently going through now that he's lost his speed? Because he too has lost his speed. So Bart goes back to school and he's just a normal kid. And because he has no speed, he can't, he's not doing well in class. And he doesn't have Max either. Because Max is in the hospital, he's preoccupied with that. So he keeps daydreaming in class, and his friends have to try and keep his mind in line. He's daydreaming so much, and he's not even finishing his name on his tests. And so his teacher is going to punish him, go talk to the principal, and the principal's like, "No. We're not going to keep Bart around. We're not going to put him in detention because his Uncle Max is in the hospital. So we're going to go let him see Max." And so they let Bart go to the hospital. No, they don't let Bart go to the hospital. What am I talking about? They just say that Max is in the hospital, and so Bart is just allowed to go off on his way. It's kind of the principal being like, look, he's sad now, right now, because his uncle's, his uncle might die. Max isn't actually his uncle, he's just posing as Bart's uncle. Also, during this issue, it's established that, Jenny XS is Bart's cousin, not his sister. So, it's kind of confusing, because, it's confusing at first until you remember, the Tornado Twins are twins. One of them had Bart as a child, and the other one had XS as a child. Because it'd be weird if they, that'd be incest if it was they had Bart and XS together. What was I even thinking? Why did I even think they were brother and sister? That's weird as hell. No, they're cousins. We don't know who the Tornado Twins got with separately. We don't know who Bart's mom is. But all we know is that, they're cousins. XS doesn't really do much in this, sadly. She doesn't even get to go with them in order to stop Savitar. Like, Max is like, no, you stay behind, you stay here, you gotta make sure Savitar doesn't attack Linda and Iris. You don't get to be a part of this event, you don't get to do anything cool. Sorry. You can go do that in your own title in the Legion of Superheroes. Johnny Quick shows up to the hospital room in order to see Max. Jay is there, Linda is there, Iris is there, they're all there. Meanwhile, Bart just plays soccer, and because he's lost his powers, he gets, like, hit in the head with the soccer ball, and his coach is just like, why are you doing standing around? Like, why aren't you running or anything? What happened to all your energy? And Bart just kind of takes it. And then he goes to have lunch in the cafeteria, and he gets knocked over by one of the nearby, like, one of his bullies, and, like, Bart doesn't do anything, like, he just falls on the ground. Like, normally he would use his super speed to save himself, but now he just gets knocked off on the ground, and, this upsets him, and his friends come over and help him up, and they're like, hey, you know, leave Bart alone. He's going through a lot right now. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, Bart doesn't care about anything at all. And Bart is just like, that's, like, really gets on Bart's nerves. And he just strikes the kid and punches him in the face. He's like, hey, you know, this guy's insane. Get him off of me. Ah. And Bart, like, pushes his friends who are kind of trying to restrain him. He pushes them away. And then he leaves the building and he just screams. He's like, Max! And then he starts running. He's like crying and he starts running through like the woods. And he makes it to the edge of the city of, I would assume it's Keystone City. And just kind of looks over it. And then starts, you know, running again. And he almost gets hit by a couple of kids on his bike. And he actually falls over and, like, hurts himself because he gets, like, ran by these kids on their bike. Like, they just ride by and they just hit him. And he ends up with, like, scuffs all over his knee and stuff. And he starts just, like, walking, like, limping away. And it's like, what the hell? Like, that sucks. Why is Bart getting, like, trodden on so much? So, as Max is talking to Johnny Quick, he reveals to Johnny that he's got energy that he's reserving inside him. Because he has the ability to keep energy in his body and not use it. So he's keeping it in his body so that it heals him. And then a group of Savitar's assassins come to finish the job. And Max passes his energy on to Johnny to give him the speed that he needs to fight the assassins. And so he starts fighting them, and then everyone else realizes that they're getting their speed back, including Bart. And so with his speed back, Bart speeds all the way back to the hospital. He starts running to the hospital, and he's like really happy again. He's like, yeah! And everyone else has their speed back, so Jay and XS start helping Johnny fight the assassins. And yeah, it's as they're about to kill Max, because they managed to get close enough to him, that Bart manages to race into the building in order to see Max, and at the same time, Johnny Quick knocks out the final assassin, and then Bart comes in and finishes him off. Because there's two of them. Yeah, Johnny knocks out one of them, and then Bart runs in and he knocks out the other one. The one that's about to try and kill Max. And, yeah. They save him. So, Max assumes that, because they all have their speed back, it means that Wally and Jesse have done something, have, like, hindered Savitar in some kind of way. And so now they're going to go and meet up with Wally and Jesse and see if they can, you know, start the next step to finding Savitar and defeating him. And that's when Max tells Jenny to stay behind, XS. He's like, yeah, you stay behind, look after Linda and Iris, And then Linda and Iris are just like, wait, you're going? And Max, like, it's like, what are we going to tell the nurses? And Max is just like, you're both writers. Like, just make up a story. And then they leave. They leave off to go and stop Savitar. Go find Wally and Jesse. I don't know exactly what they're doing. It's assumed that that's what they're going to do. But I'm going to find out when I read the next issue. So, yeah. So, Flash, issue 110, taking place during Impulse issue 10. Wally and Jesse are heading over to Savitar's castle, which they find, and Jesse asks Wally about, like, his experiences in the Speed Force, because unlike her father, she believes in it, and Wally tells her that he doesn't remember anything, but because Savitar has brushed with the Speed Force like he has, Savitar knows how to use the Speed Force in ways that maybe even Wally doesn't know. You know, like, there's a good chance that Savitar has greater abilities than Wally when it comes to the Speed Force. So they enter the castle and they find this center room, which is essentially the generator that Savitar is using to steal people's speed. Along the walls are all of his assassins, and then in the very middle is the generator itself. And the generator is Christina. Christina is powering it. So Christina is a member of Red Trinity. She's the female member. She became Lady Flash briefly. Mark Waid touches upon it in this, where he kind of hand waves it away, where he's just like, Christina became Lady Flash, and then I got sick of her, and I told her to go away, and then she got recruited by Savitar, and now she's powering his generator. Like, it's kind of dumb. I don't like it. It's very clear Mark Waid just does not give a crap about Christina in this, and I think he kind of uses that through, like, he Jesse Quick becomes, like, the vessel for Mark's feelings on Christina as a character, because throughout this entire issue, she is incredibly harsh. Like, she's too harsh on Christina. She, like, calls her a bitch and stuff. Like, it's kind of, like, she's very mean. And I don't like how mean she is. Especially because, you know, Jesse's kind of... I think it's on purpose. Jesse's kind of in the same situation as Christina, where she's trying to find a place. But unlike Christina, Jesse was lucky enough to actually be welcomed by Wally instead of being pushed away. And she doesn't realize that her and Christina are in very similar situations and have a lot in common, and that she's basically what Christina would have become if Wally hadn't pushed her away. So maybe she sees that in Christina, and it makes her afraid that she, could become like Christina, and so she kind of, like, is incredibly mean towards her, calls her an idiot and stuff for teaming up with the bad guys and being manipulated and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. That's just what I'm thinking. So Savitar tells Christina to come to her, and he's like, if your allegiance really is for me, then I want you to go and kill Wally West, because I need to kill him if I want to enter the Speed Force and stuff, because, like, the only reason I can't enter it is because Wally is still alive and is directly connected to it. So she goes to attack Wally, and Wally pushes Jesse away because her job is to figure out how to stop the generator so that the assassins won't keep getting power. Because it's stealing the power from their friends, they believe that if they stop the generator, their friends should be able to get their speed back. So Christina and Wally have a massive fight, and then Wally sees Savitar and is like, hey, now's my opportunity to take him on. And he tries to get Savitar from behind, and Savitar just quickly, like, turns around and just smashes Wally into a nearby wall. And he's like, hey, Christina, can you go deal with Jesse, please? I'm gonna deal with Wally. I'm gonna be the one that kills him. So Jesse tries to free the assassins that are, getting speed power infused into them. And she realizes that she can't just pull them off of the wall because they disintegrate and die. So she needs to find another way to take out the generator. So she decides to just attack it head on, and as she tries to do that, Christina comes up against her and fights her. Meanwhile, Wally faces Savitar. not really in a proper fight. This is more of like a lesson for Wally that Savitar kind of takes this as an opportunity to teach Wally the limits of his powers and how limitless they are. Wally throws a knife at him and it hits Savitar in the chest, and Savitar displays that he can use his powers to heal himself using his metabolism. He then throws Wally a bunch of shurikens and sits on his throne and basically eggs Wally on to throw them at him. And so Wally does that, and Savitar displays his ability to control momentum. He stops the momentum of the shurikens as they're in midair, and then sends them flying back at Wally, cutting him and stuff. And then he walks over to Wally, and he's like, "See, you don't understand. Like like our abilities. Like, if you try hard enough, you can control momentum itself. And that's only the beginning. And obviously, I can't get into the Speed Force right now because of this barrier, and the barrier is you, so I'm gonna kill you now." And so he starts beating the crap out of Wally, trying to kill him. Meanwhile, Jesse Quick and Christina have a massive fight, and Jesse Quick basically spends the entire time just berating Christina, calling her an idiot and stuff for teaming up with Savitar, and Christina's like, "He gave me love, like, he gave me a purpose." She's like, "You're such an idiot." Christina's like, "You don't have anything, and soon you won't even have your father, because what if we take him away from you?" She's like, "Don't you ever say anything about my father." And this kind of gives her enough anger to destroy the generator. Like, Jesse just smashes straight into it, blowing it up, and infusing everyone with their powers again, like we saw in the last issue. And and then in a rage, she just, at super speed, just beats the crap out of Christina until she's like almost defeated, and then Savitar runs in and grabs Jessie and smashes her against the wall, knocking her unconscious. And then Savitar is like, "All right, Christina, let's get out of here. Let's go get our men. Like, all of our assassins, will set them free, and then we'll defeat Wally once and for all, because we're running out of time. We got to do this now. We got to kill him." So Wally runs over to Jessie and he wakes her up, and they realize that the assassins are all gone. And then Savitar breaks through the nearby door with all of his cult members, and he's just like, "What are the odds even you will survive such an onslaught? 50 of my men at once." And that's when something zooms straight past them, past Savitar and his men, and it's Jay Garrick, Johnny Quick, Impulse, and Max Mercury all showing up to save the day. And so now the whole gang's here, and we're gonna... I don't think it's not gonna be the final battle, because we've still got 2 more parts of this left, but like, this is gonna be the beginning of the final battle. So we'll find out what happens next in Impulse issue 11. Alright, Impulse, issue 11. So Savitar and his cult members show up, and immediately Wally, Johnny Quick, Jesse Quick, Impulse, like Bart, Max, and Jay are all fighting them, and Savitar and Christina are watching from a distance, and Savitar notices Jessie and kind of like is very fond of her. He likes what he sees. He likes how she fights. He likes the strength that is within her. So Savitar and Christina split off, and Max sees them leaving, and he's like, while the assassins are being imbued with speed, there's a good chance Savitar is weaker at the moment, so this is their opportunity to go after him. So Max, Johnny, and Jesse all head off after Savitar, while Wally, Jay, and Bart stay behind to fight the cult members. But Wally and Jay get separated from Bart because Bart is too busy, doing his own thing. And they're like, "Hey, as long as we stay in the close quarters of the castle, we should be fine." And then they look outside and they see Bart fighting Savitar's men outside, and they just like slap their foreheads. They're just like, "Oh my god, Bart, what are you doing? Why are you outside? That's the worst place for a speedster to fight because it's raining at the moment." Max Jesse and Johnny find Savitar's library where they see all of his books about the Speed Force, and then Jesse points out that he has a chapel there, and Savitar is like, "Yeah, you don't belong here. Kill them." He shows up with his guys, and they all start fighting. Jesse's like, "Dad, quick, get out of the way!" and like stops him from getting killed. And Max smacks one of the assassins into nearby fireplace, knocking a bunch of Savitar's books in there, and Savitar starts freaking out because they're destroying his books and his life work. Meanwhile, outside, Wally, Bart, and Jay start fighting the assassins, and Wally's just like, "You idiot, Bart, like, why are we fighting out here?" And Bart's just like, "Man, now I get why you wear the hat, Jay." And Jay's like, "Yep, that's exactly what it is." And Wally's like, "Look, we can't, like, we gotta stop messing around. Why didn't you bring XS with us?" And Bart is like, "Because, just ask Max that. He told her to stay behind." And that's when we cut to Linda, Iris, and XS. And Iris is like, I shouldn't even be here. I'm supposed to be in the future. And Linda's like, "I've had enough of you talking about not changing the present. We are real people. The present is our lives. It's not just history. So you need to stop acting like you can't change the future and just help us change the future if it means that we're going to live." And Iris was like, "Maybe you're right. There is something I do know, and it will involve you, XS. There's something I've got to tell you. I've got a job for you. And we'll find out what that is in the next issue, because we don't find out in this one. Wally realizes that the assassins keep getting faster, and it's because every time they beat one, because they're all imbued with the same amount, like the same speed channel, the less of them there are, the faster they get. So because as they defeat them, the ones left over start getting faster. So they need to figure out how to defeat them all at once, because defeating them one at a time is just going to lead to them being beaten. Meanwhile, Johnny, Max, and Jesse fight Savitar and just get the crap beaten out of them. And one of Savitar's cult members grabs Jesse because he wants Jesse to become his new protege, and he's going to kill Christina. He's just going to toss her away because he sees her as trash. And Christina's like, "No, you're not going to do that. No!" And she goes and grabs a sword because she wants to kill Jesse, because she doesn't want Jesse replacing her. And Johnny's just like, "Jesse?" And then he sees Christina running towards Jesse, and so he starts running after her, and he starts saying his mathematical equation. He goes like 3x2, 3x2, and then he's like, the hell with it. And he just does it. He doesn't finish it. Instead, he uses the Speed Force. He zooms alongside Christina, and then a massive explosion happens, and Christina collapses, and Johnny disappears alongside Max. Jesse's like, "What did you do to my dad? Like, where is he? What did you do to him? Max, where are you?" And so we find out that Max is inside the Speed Force, and so is Johnny. And Johnny has ran so fast that he's seen the Speed Force, and he's not stopping. He says, "It's too late, Max. I can feel it's calling me. Finally. It's going to be amazing, isn't it, Max?" And Max is like, "John, wait. The fight. Your daughter." It's up to the Flash to beat Savitar. There's nothing more we can do. And as for Jessie, tell her I love her, Max. And tell her I'll always be a part of her. Now more than ever. Goodbye, Max. Thanks for putting up with me all these years. You may not have been the best student, but you were a great teacher. And Max is like crying as this is happening, and Johnny just keeps going into the Speed Force until he is obliterated by it, and he becomes one with it, and is essentially, he's dead. He's become one with the Speed Force. And Max is like, "Thank you." Meanwhile, Wally, Jay, and Bart cause an earthquake on the roof to cause a cave-in. So the roof caves in, And then yeah, all of the assassins, like all of the cult members, are defeated. And as the roof caves in, it's assumed Christina dies because Jesse is like, Christina, we got to get out of here. Like, and Christina's like, maybe I want to die. And so Jesse dodges the roof as it collapses, and Christina gets caught in the rubble and presumably dies. And then Max shows up, and he's like, Jesse. And Jesse's like, Max, where's my father? He's okay, isn't he? And she sees Max's face, and she hugs him, and breaks down. And then she hugs Jay, and Jay just holds her tight. And yeah, Wally hears about John, and Bart apologizes for not taking this seriously, because he's like, Johnny was a cool guy and now he's dead, and I'm sorry I didn't take this seriously. And Max is like, it's fine, but we all learn. And Wally's just like, fight's not over yet, everyone, hold on to something. And a huge gust of wind and stuff start rocking the building, and they can hear Savitar talking. He's like, you have overthrown my army. You have destroyed my holy cathedral. You have stolen everything that matters to me, Flash. I can do no less for you. And Wally puts two and two together and is like, Linda? Linda! And he heads off because he knows Savitar is probably going to go after Linda. And Max is like, damn it, this is what I was always afraid of. Savitar will just keep striking and striking and striking until... And Bart is like, until what? And Max is like, until Flash kills him. And that's it. That's the end of that issue. We end on that cliffhanger. So Savitar is going to try and get Wally to kill him. Why? Probably Savitar's probably just doesn't care anymore, and he just wants Wally to, ruin himself. Maybe Savitar sees it as if Wally kills him, then he won't be worthy of the Speed Force anymore. But yeah, that's the end of that issue, and now we're going to be talking about the final part of Dead Heat in Flash issue 111, the grand final, Wally versus Savitar. So let's see how this concludes. Alright, so here we are, Flash issue 111, the final part of Dead Heat. So this issue kind of feels like a bit of a throwback to the trial of the Flash at the end, when Barry chases after Reverse Flash. You have that final issue where Reverse Flash is trying to kill Fiona. Similar situation, Savitar is trying to kill Linda and Iris, and Wally is chasing him. And so they're running through the cities. Savitar is causing all sorts of destruction that Wally is stopping as they're running, like a blown up tank. At different points they're stopping and they're punching each other, and then they continue running. The major difference though is that Wally has a family of speedsters helping him, while Barry did it all by himself. And so the Flash family show up and they try to stop Savitar, but he just mows through them. And Impulse comes at him head on, and Wally's just like, you idiot, Impulse. Just a big target on your forehead. Savitar just smashes through Impulse and keeps going. And they end up on the highway, and Wally tries to grab Savitar, and Savitar just smacks him in the face. And then they end up in Manchester. And as they're running, Wally is trying to bargain with him, you want me, you can have me. And Savitar just doesn't care. He's determined to kill Linda and Iris. And Wally is like, I can't slow down because Savitar will kill me, and I can't speed up because if I speed up anymore, I'll end up trapped in the Speed Force again, and who knows what's going to happen then. And then all of a sudden, XS appears, sent by Iris. She shows up, and Wally's like, oh no, Savitar's going to kill her if she catches up to him. And XS basically says, Iris sent me to tell you this. You can't beat Savitar. You can't beat him. You need to give him what he wants. And then XS gets knocked out by Savitar, and Wally is like, give him what he wants? Wait, I'm not supposed to lose to him. Give him what he wants. Okay, I'll give him what he wants. Hey, Savitar, I'll give you what you want. I'll give you what you want. I'll take you where you want to go. I'll be the driver. And Wally starts sharing his speed with Savitar, and both of them enter the Speed Force. And Savitar is elated. He's like, yes, I'm in the Speed Force. I can see it. I can speak with God itself. I'm becoming one with it. And as Wally and Savitar get faster and faster, they start molding with, like, they start becoming one with the Speed Force. And Savitar's just like, yes, I am, like, finally, I'm one with it. Yes. And then he just, like, disappears into the Speed Force and just gets, like, he just becomes one with it. He gets exactly what he wanted. And then Wally's just like, Savitar wants to stay here in the Speed Force. That's great. I don't want to stay here. I want to get out of here. And I know how to do it now. Back when Barry and I would travel through time, we would vibrate at a different frequency. So vibrating is the key to getting out of the Speed Force. That's how I did it previously. So he starts vibrating, and like kind of like this big sphere of energy and lightning starts appearing around him, and we're kind of left on a cliffhanger of like, did Wally get out? And that question is kind of answered in the next page when we head back to, I would assume it's Bart's house again, or like Max's house, where everyone is joined together. And Max is like, it's like, we did it. We beat Savitar, and luckily we didn't lose anyone. And Jesse's like, that's not true though. Like, we did lose somebody. We lost my dad. And, Jay is like, it sucks that we lost Johnny, but he sacrificed himself for you, and the fact that you're still alive is what matters. Especially to him. And then somebody appears in the room with them, phases in, and they all assume that it's Wally. They're like, Wally, yay, you're back. But it's not Wally. It's somebody else. Someone else wearing a costume. They got like a red and blue costume. It's the Flash from, remember in the Flash special, the first one, where it was John Fox, I think his name was, and he was the Flash from far in the future? It's him. I recognize him. So now he's in the present, but where's Wally? And that's the cliffhanger we're left on, and we'll find out in the next issue of The Flash, which will be next week. Because that's the end of this episode of Flash Forward. Yeah, I thought that it would be a good idea to have just this episode be like Dead Heat itself condensed. Because we're about to start another like multi-part like Flash event. And I want to save that for next week. But yeah, that was Dead Heat. My opinions on Dead Heat. I really enjoy the character moments. I think Mark Waid is amazing at writing the relationships between the Flash family and all of the main characters. He just isn't very good at creating villains. Savitar is not a great villain. He's pretty bland and like uninteresting, but it doesn't matter because he's just a vehicle for the event of like, this event needs a villain, it's Savitar. The real meat and potatoes of the event is Wally and his relationships with everyone and the other characters. Like, you would never expect that Johnny Quick would get so much character development and that you would ever care about Johnny Quick when he dies. And I cared about Johnny Quick when he died. And I may not be a huge fan of, like, you know, what happened with Cassie, like with Red Trinity, where Mark Waid kind of just screwed them over and was like, I don't care about these characters, so like, let's make Christina Savitar's crony, and then like she doesn't even get a redemption at the end. She just dies, and Cassiopeia just falls to his death. We never even find out what happened to the third sibling. He's still alive. I'm curious if he's gonna come back. It would make sense that he would, because both of his siblings have both died horribly. I hope he doesn't become like a villain or something, because that'd be too predictable. But I would expect him to show up and be like, hey, both of my brother and sister are both dead, and you don't care. Like, what is up with that? Yeah, no, but overall, loved this. Loved the character development that Impulse went through. Max especially, learning so much about Max Mercury. He was pretty much the main character of this. Like, Wally was the main protagonist, but Max was like the secret main protagonist of the whole event, because this event very much focuses on him, and he is kind of like the divining rod of this event, like the center of it. The one who has the most history with Savitar, and is kind of the one who pushes this event forward. And he's also the one who faces Savitar the most in this. Like, Savitar is Max's like arch nemesis. You know, he's an enemy of Wally, but he's really Max's arch nemesis. And I'm really curious to see if in the future we're gonna get to see more Max and Savitar stuff, because it's obvious Savitar's gonna come back. Yeah, that's my opinions on Dead Heat. I think it's also one of those things where, like, I'll probably think about it, and I'll, there'll be more things that I'll think about where I'll be like, I like this whole thing. I like this part of the event. I like Iris coming to the conclusion that she should actually help them and change the future because it's the right thing to do, and it's like, why not? Like, she's in the present for a reason. She's probably supposed to change the future. Otherwise, she would have gone back a while ago. But yeah, if you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, then please follow the podcast and like the podcast and rate the podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Yeah, share it around if you know anyone who would be who wants to listen to this and is interested in comic books and is interested in characters. And I just have a lot of passion about this. I love talking about it. I love talking about the Flash. I love the Flash, and I love talking about DC events and things. So look forward to plenty more of this content, because it's not ending. Like, it's not going to come to an end anytime soon. I'm still into this. I still want to do this. But yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, and I hope to see you next week, where we continue with the Flash. I'm pretty sure, because I don't think Final Night is coming anytime soon. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to do some like more Flash next week. And then I think the week after, we're either going to do Final Night, or there's a couple of Flash crossover one-shots and stuff that I'm going to struggle to kind of fit in with these issues. So maybe I'll just do an episode where I do, like, all the one-shots that were released in, like, 1996 to 1997. So you got, like, the Flash Nightwing crossover one-shot that they did, and you've got the crossover miniseries between Kyle Rayner and Wally West that they did called Faster Friends. Yeah, so look forward to that stuff in the future, and have a good one.